So for whatever reason, I'm using this mouse here that I've got. It's like a gaming mouse, and it's got buttons.
Nice.
My
Very cool mouse.
I don't want a very cool mouse. I just want a regular mouse. Anyway, good evening, Allie. I'm Kyle. This is Allie. Allie Hudson. She works on our campaign. See, now you can't see, but right now I'll tell you, we can cut out the beginning of this. But right now we have 0 people watching, so we can chat.
Okay.
Okay, so
Okay.
we're ramping up.
Does this get
Maybe
recorded though? Like, will
what's
this be
that?
like, is this recorded? Like, can people watch it later or is
Oh
live?
yeah. So
Oh, so
this
then
will
maybe we
show up
shouldn't
on
just chat.
Facebook Live. This will show up on YouTube Live. So it'll plop in there, and then so now we actually welcome. We have someone
Great.
here with us. So Allie
Amazing.
Hudson, I'm Kyle Parrish. For those of you out there, you know me as the candidate in the 5th District of North Carolina, running against Virginia Fox, who is objectively not the greatest person. Anyway, so we are trying to defeat her so that I can go there and I can be the greatest person. Yes.
I can attest to that. I think you're a pretty great person.
Well,
Um,
thank you. That's why I'm running, to be the greatest person. So tonight we're going to talk about relational organizing, right? Isn't that what
yes.
we're talking about?
Don't sign
And
off. Everyone, don't sign off. I know
no,
relation.
it's really cool and interesting, and we're figuring stuff out. So I'm going to, Allie, tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do in a relational organizing, and what that's about.
Yeah, for sure. I'm happy to. So I'm Allie. I am a software engineer full time and part time Kyle's support staff. Helped him build up some of the website stuff, which has been really exciting. And it's been a pleasure to work together so far. I worked on the Biden campaign doing tech stuff for them, which how I describe it is everything was on fire all the time, and it was the best experience ever. Everyone, in the space is super smart, super motivated. They have ideas, and just talking to everyone, you get really excited about it. And kind of like the sky's the limit when it comes to what you're able to accomplish and what you can do. So that's been a really valuable part. I think about being part of this space for me, is feeling inspired by the ideas out there and to have an impact to push like ideas that are close to my heart forward.
So can I ask you a quick question about
Yeah,
that?
for sure.
So how was it, like, were you remote during that? Because so Allie and I have never met. She's been working with us for months and months and months and doing all this cool stuff. You live in New York City, right?
Yeah, I do. I'm in New York right now.
New York City. So she lives in New York City, but like we haven't met. So on the Biden campaign, were you actually remote there because of the pandemic, or were you
Yeah.
actually did you get some like FaceTime with people too?
So it was a really funny story because we didn't know like how long the pandemic was going to last at the time. And originally it was everything was supposed to be in person. So I found a house, I moved up to rural New Hampshire, and I stayed in that house and I didn't go anywhere. And I just lived there because everything was remote. The only day that we did an in-person event with 3 or 4 rounds of like getting tests ahead of time was the night before the election or like election night. Just to make sure that there was ease of access of communication. And as like numbers came in, we could do it as a group. And what was really sad about it is, we had like all this like celebratory stuff on hand for when we want, like if we, won the state of New Hampshire. But we won the state of New Hampshire and we're all excited. But the country was in such a state of like tension that no one touched anything. Like the cake went like untouched. Like no one like had drinks. We all just kind of sat there in silence, like looking at like the other states and like kind of the drama that was starting to ensue in those places. But that was my one experience in person. And then other than that, I was in my little like it was a very old like farmhouse kind of style place.
What part of New Hampshire? Like
Dover. It's like outside of Manchester, about half hour. Between there and Portsmouth, which
I lived in Portland, Maine for 10 years, or right there. So I spent. There's a couple little cool little 5Ks we used to run right around Portsmouth, and then
a 5K.
Yeah, because there was like a race down by Portsmouth, New Hampshire. On the other side, it was like on the main side because they've got the shipyard there, and so it's the two sides. So by the Kittery Trading Post, there's a little town.
That's great.
Anyway, we don't.
I was just going to say, running is super close to my heart from New Hampshire because it's like where I got into like doing distance running, and it's such a beautiful place, such a beautiful state.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. But to get back to the original question, which
Yep,
I think we started on relational organizing,
we did.
uh, something that drives me freaking nuts is the fact that most people still don't vote. And it's this crazy barrier in American politics that they just don't have in other places. Like in Australia, it's
Mhm.
mandatory voting. Everybody everywhere gets a ballot. And you don't have to vote. You can abstain, but at least you
Ah,
make the decision to abstain like it's a conscious decision. It's not one of neglect, it's not one of not being able to vote because, there are laws that prevent it. Um and I think that like that in and of itself means that to work in a political space means that you're responsible to get people to show up. You're responsible for
uh,
inspiring people enough by the process. And, in our current state where people are frustrated with government, they feel like it's slow. They feel like, it's not meeting their needs. They can't see like how the candidates that got elected last year are taking action and pushing stuff forward because it's a very like arduous process. And so to convince people that their vote still counts and that their vote is what matters and that, it doesn't matter who you vote for. It doesn't matter. I mean, don't vote for Virginia Fox, but it doesn't matter like what your
right.
ideology is. But we are given this one lever to impact like dynamic change. And even though we might not see it tomorrow or next month, the month after, it's setting ourselves up for 10 years, 20 years into the future to live in the kind of country we want to live in, to set like for our kids, the kind
Right.
of education system we want, the kind of climate resiliency so we aren't dealing with hurricanes and houses getting washed away in Florida that we want, the kind of society that we think is the right society. And so what that comes down to is so much of our job, so much of your and my job, as well as anyone who's in like the campaign political space, is
Right.
getting people to show up. Like that is like number one. We're like, how
Yeah.
do I get you to the poll? Like, how do I get you to get your absentee ballot? Whoever you are, how do I get you to believe that like your voice matters? Um, and
I was
we
watching.
spam
That is such a good point. I was watching something the other day where there were these guys and they were going around talking to people about voting. And
Yeah,
basically, it was these guys who had a country store in Eastern North Carolina kind of thing. And they were basically like, it doesn't matter who's president, doesn't matter who's in the government. It's all the same for us all
yeah,
the time, which is your point of they have become so disillusioned with the system that
yeah.
and that they cannot affect change. And unfortunately, that has a huge impact because those people that are so disillusioned are having their votes wiped out by these people who are incredibly passionate about these cultural issues that are ridiculous.
Yeah.
So, because a lot of the people that could vote, they're not going to vote to take away a woman's right to choose. They're not going to vote for, not allowing gay marriage.
Yeah.
But there are people who are incredibly passionate about that, which
Well,
I think
those are the
makes,
ones that show up. Those are the ones that are incentivized. The radical extremists on both sides, like,
yeah,
are the ones who have like the inner fire going so much that they make it a priority to go vote. And unfortunately, what that means, our politics just becomes this very divisive, like people on either end making the calls, and not like what most people would want if you sat
yeah,
down and talked to them about it. Um, and the position that we're then left in is it's like, well, how do you get people who like are lukewarm, but they want a little bit better infrastructure. They want their roads to be a little better. They want to have access to a hospital nearby. That'd be great, but they don't think about it constantly. It doesn't drive them and it doesn't drive their sense of self, but it's something that would make their lives a little bit better. And how do you reach them?
and I mean that's what we're, especially in a district like we're working in, right? Which is
Yeah.
rural. Because I mean, I don't know just where you're living in the city, right? I mean, you have multiple congressional districts just in the city itself.
Oh yeah. It's
Like, I
great.
mean, there are tons, right? So because if
Yeah.
it's 750,000 per, you've got at least, I don't know, probably 8 or 10 Congress people that are in the 5 boroughs,
Hmm.
right? I mean, it's so much closer. Now they still have to have their volume to amplify themselves, but where we are, it's a massive area of land. I don't
Yeah.
know how big it is. It's Connecticut
I'll have
big,
that number
maybe.
somewhere. It's in a
Yeah,
Google Doc, I swear.
yeah, exactly. I know the 12 counties. I can rattle them off, right? And I can tell you the borders. And I can tell you, but yeah, I mean, I don't know how many square miles, but however big it is, it's getting those people because not only do they have like a feeling that they don't matter, but they also have barriers, just physical barriers to go vote.
Yeah.
I mean, they've got to drive, to your point about healthcare, to your point about school. You got to drive 20, 30 minutes each way. That means you
Right.
got to drive 20 or 30 minutes to vote. So we have to try that much harder to get those people motivated. I met
Absolutely.
the first person that I have heard that readily admitted she's over 50 years old who has never voted. She's not in my district, but I was like, are you kidding me? Like,
Yeah.
you've gone through your whole life in the United States and let other people direct everything?
Yeah.
And so she's down with it now. So I got one more voter.
I'm so glad. I
Thank you.
think it's not something that's talked about really in schools or growing up. It's not something that you're ever really taught, and I think you should be. Like that
Yeah.
sense of responsibility to express your opinion, and kind of like what happens if you don't? Like, what are the consequences of not voting? Like, maybe nothing directly, but indirectly, what are you doing? You're
Yeah.
like letting someone else like speak for you. Like, if everyone threw in, $50 for the company holiday party and it's like, where should we have it? And you're like, be quiet. Well, it's gonna be like the weird guy, from like IT downstairs, who's like,
Exactly.
I want to have it at Dave and Buster's, and like
Yeah.
you would have picked something else, and
Yeah.
like because you didn't vote, like you didn't get your say, you didn't put your hand up.
To
That
be
vote like
fair, I'm
outweighs
the weird guy from IT. So
it. Me too. I'm the one from Yes.
exactly. We
Um,
are in the
yeah,
self-deprecating phase of this conversation. We are the
yeah,
weird people from IT. No, you're exactly right. It's letting other people take control of your own destiny, right?
yeah,
And I I think, you look at the 2020 election, and I know we're here to talk about relational organizing, and this goes into how you get people engaged. So I'm going to turn it over to you to kind of talk about. But if you think about all the people that whine and complain about Biden and that he didn't win, it was purely because people got out and voted. He did win because people were motivated by their absolute disdain for
right,
Trump, and they did not want the world to be the way it was. And that kind of energy is what we need now, because as we were talking about a little earlier, some of the things that are coming up in front of the Supreme Court and some of the ways that the state
yeah,
legislatures are moving things forward, it is utterly and completely frightening if we don't
very,
stop this train where we end up.
yeah. And I think the thing is, it often gets very overwhelming. I'm not sure if people out there like relate to that, if you relate to that, but when you're just hammered constantly by this negative media and like these really sad stories out there, it makes you want to disengage, and it makes you want to like kind of like blinders on a little and look down and not prioritize voting, not prioritize
Yeah.
staying informed, because it's hard. It's really hard, you
Well, it's
know?
stressful. And a lot of people,
Yeah.
so I won't say, one of my family members, she's basically just, and extended family, she's checked out whenever anything kind of creates anxiety or stress in her, she sheds it.
Mm.
And the problem is so then she becomes more and more and more distant from the
Yeah.
thing. And I have a saying that I try to impart on my kids, which is, bad news never gets better with time.
Mm.
So it's kind of like we don't want to face up to these things that give us stress and anxiety and all. But you and I both, as we were talking about before we started, both of us do this because we feel like it gives us some sense of empowerment, some sense of
Totally.
that we're changing things, rather than allowing those things to either eat us up and consume us, or to completely ignore them and bury our heads, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so that's what we need to do. So tell us about this relational organizing
Yeah.
stuff. Come
I mean, I
on.
think it's not like we haven't started diving into it, because I think all of this conversation gets us to, how do you feel better about it? How do you motivate people to show up? And I think it all comes back to your personal network, When you're scared, when you're stressed, who do you talk to? Who do you lean on? When like news comes out like this, who is it that you pick up the phone and text? And when we think about effective ways to get people to vote, it's just by asking them to reconnect with the networks they're already in. Because the single most effective way to get someone to show up, the single most effective way is to have a friend or family member ask them to do it. Because
Uh,
we can spam you all you want. And like there can be many texts from the campaign and Facebook ads and Hulu. But, if your mom says, honey, you going to vote? Like that's way more, I got to do this. This is something that's
yeah.
right. This is something that I got to show up for. And it's because it's the person that you talk to every day. And so relational organizing is the idea of like taking responsibility just of your local scope. And it's saying that you don't have to volunteer 10 hours a week to make a difference. That doesn't have to be it. Like, you don't have to run for office if that's not something that you can do in your life right now. Like, God bless all those that can. And thank you, Kyle, obviously, for doing it. But I think a lot of people wish they had that area of impact, and they don't know how to do it in a way that like fits with their life and that like accounts for the busy schedule and finances and family and kids. And the commit that we ask everyone to take is just make sure like 3 to 5 people vote. Just make sure 3 to 5 of your closest friends and family like show up, and then they are like heard. Just do that and ask them to do the same. The key is like get it to be self-propagating.
Yeah, and it's really interesting because I mean, it's the old compound interest theory, right? Which is that if I had double my penny every day, once a day, how much money do I have at the end of a year? And you go, oh my God. Now I realize that's a little bit hyperbolic because that number is going to be different. But to your point, it's like we need to get those people involved so that they are getting other people involved and you're extending your power, because while you and I can sit here and we can advocate, be like, yes, let's get out there and vote. We are obviously passionate. I'm running for office. You are driving a team that's trying to help us make a dent in this district. When that comes along, we can only do so much in our small sphere, especially when we're spread across like we are. You're in New York, I'm in North Carolina, Austin's in Michigan. And that's what's pretty cool. Technology allows us to do this kind of stuff. So in the relational space, for relational organizing, it's also not just about my campaign. It's also about every campaign to spread our view of the world and get people to align in different states and towns and cities and everything else, and get them engaged to go out and vote for the people who are in their area to make our country a better place. Right?
Absolutely.
So,
and I think it's really what motivated us to build a little platform where you can have that connection. I don't know of the folks listening out there how many have explored our website, have looked around at our volunteer resources. I know it's a lot, but I think the motivating factor behind let's help people help their network show up and vote. We built out just like a little tool. The idea is if I'm Allie and I know those 5 people that I want to make sure show up, send them a link and I say, what's your plan? What's your plan to vote this year? Get them to sign and say, I'm going to vote. Because if I, Allie, send it to my friends, they'll probably sign up.
Yeah.
Kyle, you wanna do a walkthrough of the platform? I don't
sure,
know.
let's do it. And you got to share your screen, right? I think that's what we. And then I will try to make it not blow up here with this mouse.
Show your.
You share your screen.
Yes, I got it. Amazing.
All right.
All right. So, is there a way for me to throw this in the chat, like the link that I'm on?
Yeah, you can. So you can. There's just which chat. Oh, can you do public chat or just private? I can put it in the chat anyway.
If I send this I'm going to send it to the private chat and you throw it up.
Okay.
So this is the website we built for anyone out there trying to make sure that their friends vote. Specifically those supporting Kyle, but really anyone just getting your network to show up. So this website is Flip the Fifth for the 5th district that we're in. And this is the homepage. So we see Kyle passionately speaking. And the goal is to create a supporter page that's for you to then use to reach out to your network. So we can go through this together and just do a little sign up.
And the link is in the chat now.
Yes, so. flipthefifth.herokuapp.com.
Cool.
I'm just going to do a little demo for you all. So I'm Allie, and I'm signing up. And this data doesn't get shared with anyone who's outside the campaign. It's just for us.
Nice.
So this is my message. It's why am I here? For me, Kyle's going to bring access to affordable broadband, healthcare, fully funded schools, and better physical infrastructure. And also, he's great.
What am I going to do?
He deserves your vote.
Yay! There you go.
Let's grab a nice one. I'm talking to some folks. These from my background. And now, what am I going to do this year? Am I going to commit to vote for you? 100%. Am I going to volunteer? Absolutely.
Which is, and each of these things you can select, and basically it's asking people, it's giving them that prompt you were talking about, right?
Exactly. It's just getting in the back of your mind, like, this is something that I'm committing to do this year. How am I going to do it? When am I going to do it? And so the last question that we ask is just like, what's your plan? For me, I'm going to vote in person on election day.
Yep.
And now I have a page. So this is now my link to use to organize my friends and family. So you'll see this little dashboard I have available. This is my sign up. And if I take this, I can share it out on Twitter or Facebook or via email. So the goal is I'd copy this link and I would go and I'd send it to my friends. And when they sign up, I'd see their names listed here. So then I would see that, if I send it to Kyle and Kyle signs up, Kyle would say Kyle with his email, his phone number, and his plan to vote. And so the goal is you would commit to saying, I'm going to send this to 5 people. And I want to make sure, 2 weeks from now that Kyle does vote. And he told me that his plan is to get his mail-in ballot. And that's great. So I'm going to make sure that he gets his mail-in ballot. And that's it. That's all we're asking people to do.
Now, I understand this has worked in the past for some candidates. Who was Ed Markey? Was that Ed Markey?
Yeah. So they did a really cool relational organizing program that, really got this to be more popular and kind of brought it to like mainstream campaigning. His team built out a version of this platform. And they were able to get, I think it was something like 30,000 people signed up saying that they're going to support Ed through this. And I think what's really great about it is it's not like a one-time text, like to a random person who's out there, but rather a commitment for a touch point that you already know. So when you're the person who goes back around and like follows up, it's a familiar face. It's the person who was there last time. It was, the friend who like, you already told me you're going to vote. So here I am just reminding you that you said that, as opposed to having to ask you incessantly, like again and again, the same kind of question.
So would this be something like for us to really get out to like our loyal Dems crowd, right?
Yeah.
So you want to start out and get a few of the loyal Dems, and then because they're the ones that are enthusiastic to start with. So you kind of want to plant that seed, it sounds like, right? That's the way is identify your friends who would kind of be engaged, even though they're going to probably vote already, I think. But they would be the ones who would have those parents, siblings, children who aren't going to vote. And they're like, come on, help me out.
Exactly. Like, what's the plan? What are you doing? How are we getting involved? So,
which is really cool. And so where did you first hear about this?
It was through that Markey. I think I feel like I just spent a lot of time on that very small section of Twitter, which is people who work in politics and also like software. And like that little echo chamber, I think this popped up. And it was like, this is a really cool piece of code. And has anyone else thought about doing this? And it stuck with me. And it was, almost a full year and a half later when I jumped onto your campaign that I remembered it. I was like, let's see what happens. Let's see what we can do.
And it's a cool thing to do, because I know at the end of like phone banks, they're always like, will you pledge to tell 3 friends?
Right.
But this is much more concrete.
Yep.
And it gives people an opportunity to kind of have ownership in this, and like you said, to be able to follow up, to be able to trace what they're doing. I mean, it gives a more concrete methodology for doing this relational organizing, which is really cool.
And I think it empowers you to run as far with it as you want to. So if you're someone who you got, you're a super volunteer and you want to have impact, you don't have to get set up with a bunch of crazy accounts. We don't need to add you to any internal databases. You have the power on your own to like watch this network develop and to spread from your like first node. You can be an organizer without any other resources. Like this is it. This is all you need in order to like have that first round of impact and to like run with it as far as you want,
Yeah, which is really cool, because a lot of the organization stuff that comes out of the parties and that type of thing, it's kind of obfuscated, has been my impression, right? I
Yeah.
trying to find that and get engaged in it, other than someone calling up and saying, you want a canvas, or do you want a phone bank, or do you want a text bank? It's really how to get through and create your own thing is not really an option. It's
Right.
usually very structured, whereas this is much less structured, much more flexible. You can do your own thing and put in as much or as little into it as you like, right?
Yeah,
And you
exactly.
can do it
It
at 2 in
really
the
fits
morning.
your schedule. You can do it when you want to do it. If you don't have time, it doesn't have to be a particular hour. It doesn't have to be, a set day of the week. It's when, it's the thing that you can do. It's the action you can take when you want to make a difference. When you see something in the news, when the Supreme Court case gets thrown up, and you're like, gosh, I wish I could do something. This is the something. This is the something that's small. It doesn't take that long, but has a huge, huge impact.
No, it absolutely does. And so this one, so you built this, right, Allie?
Yeah, I mean, me and the team. I would not take full credit. Sharov definitely he wrote a lot of this code, and the Markey folks gave us a great template to use to kind of get the ball rolling.
Yeah, which is fantastic. So I mean, it is a really great solution. It's something that I know I'm proud of. I need to get out there. I started to create my page. I need to do the same thing with I think maybe I'll do that tonight. Is
Yeah,
I will sit and
I think
do
you
my
got like
page.
3 or 4 signups. You got a couple people who saw
Yeah,
your
but
link
let's
and was
go. I
like,
mean, I've got a lot more. This is something that, as the candidate, theoretically, I should be doing nothing but out there promoting myself, which is
right,
something that I'm working towards. It's a growth
yeah,
opportunity for me. I think most candidates, that's what they do,
yeah,
right? It's
yeah,
kind of like why they're the candidate is that they're out there doing it. I think, I want to support myself as much as anyone else does.
of course,
It's
yeah,
kind of important to do that. And so, no, I mean, I would love it. People should go try this. It's the URL is in the chat, and it's HTTPS flip the fifth all one word dot hero app.
yes.
How do you pronounce that?
Heroku,
Heroku. Yeah,
HEROKUAPP.com.
there you go.
Not the
Luckily, it's in the
easiest thing to
chat.
spell, but I swear it's easy to use.
Well, and if you wanted to do it phonetically, it's Heroku app.
Yeah, Heroku.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
not
right.
nearly as cool as Heroku app, but
For
at
sure.
least then I'll know how to spell it,
Yeah.
which is vitally important. So that is really awesome. So thank you very much for coming
Yeah,
on
of course.
tonight and chatting about this stuff. And let's
Absolutely.
and keep pumping. So what's the next things we have? Do we have any other cool stuff? We've only got a month coming up.
I know, it's crazy. Time flies. What else do we have going on? That's cool. I mean, we're launching our texting program. So
Mm,
that's for folks that, maybe don't want to reach out to their network, but feel comfortable reaching out to like likely voters
yep.
in the area and helping them figure out how to get their ballot and find their polling location. So we're launching that, which is big. Oh, we started out on your TikTok. That's something
Oh
that
yeah.
Leah's got some great content coming out. It's very funny, very relatable. So for any of our any of our constituents who are on TikTok, please give it a like and a follow.
Yeah, we
Um,
need some TikTok action because I just started up a TikTok thing and I have some off the wall ideas for that Leah is kind of keeping me dialed in.
funny.
She's actually the one that's like, all right, maybe, I don't know, Kyle, that's a little crazy, but you never know. We're going to have fun.
That's so funny.
And so, yeah, that is very cool. And then also, I think I need to mention that we got signs.
Oh
So
yes,
we
we got some.
actually have yard signs for the Parrish for Congress campaign.
Yep.
So those yard signs, they're going to start appearing throughout the district starting tomorrow because I actually have to go all the way up to Boone. And so I'm going up there. So along the way, I will drop off some signs and plug them in the middle of the road.
Awesome.
Will be dropping some off probably Saturday at Ashe County, as
Amazing.
well as and I'll put these other in Ashe County so that they have them. I'll try to maybe make it over to Caldwell. I have to drive through like Yadkin, Wilkes, Davie. So maybe I can get like 5 county signs this weekend and they can start getting them out there. Right. Because I
Amazing.
think
Yeah, signs are great. People love free swags. Free swag, I feel like, is always a big deal. Yeah.
And it makes people feel connected, kind of like, you were talking about, how the relational organizing does that same thing. It makes them feel bought in. Well, when you have, I know me personally, when I have a sign or bumper sticker or something, and you think about stickers, we're IT geeks, stickers on our laptop, right? And so do you not put them on?
Oh, I have tons of stickers on my laptop.
Yeah, so
I show you because I'm on my laptop, but yes, they're there.
Don't put them on the screen. I had to learn that one the hard way. So, boom, boom. It's a terrible joke. Anyhow, putting a sticker on the screen, you wouldn't be able to see.
I got it, but it took me a little second. And so
and you're just like, I'm not even going to encourage this kind of dad joke behavior. So, so basically, that kind of that also makes you feel invested, right?
Yeah.
So I'm pretty excited. So Allie, I'm not going to take up your whole night. It is a raging Wednesday. It's Wednesday, right? Yeah.
It is Wednesday. Yep.
Man, time flies,
I know. Every week, just like this. I'm always
And
surprised.
it just keeps getting faster. Only another week. We've got it.
Andrea's here. IT dad jokes. Yeah.
And look, Andrea, we let Allie have the big screen.
Oh, it's weird. It's a little disorienting to see my own video as I'm talking because I'm like.
Exactly. This whole thing is kind of interesting. It's all learning, right? You learn how to do these things, figure it out. I always think to myself, so my camera's up here and the video's down here. So I want to talk to you. You're here.
Camera's up.
But then I'm looking down. So then I'm like this, but then I can't see what's going on up there. So I don't know. There's all kinds of options how we can do this. We look fabulous. Look at us. Rock on. That's why we have Andrea, to make us feel good.
Andrea, you are the best. You are a superhero of a person. It's been such a pleasure to have you in the Slack channel.
Hey, and so for anyone it is out there, especially Andrea, so we're going to go to Maddie Cakes, which is a cool bakery dessert shop, like lunch, breakfast joint in Bermuda Run, which Andrea set up next Saturday from 2 to 4.
Oh, great.
That's the plan. So we're going to go out and meet people. Have a little meet and greet action, right? So that'll be fun. And then we're going to be scheduling other events where I go around and I actually do, because I thrive, listening to your story about living in the New Hampshire house all by yourself. Like, I am an introvert in many ways, in that I empower. I feel my energy. I get it from being alone, kind of, but I absolutely need social connection too. And so going out to like a Maddie Cakes, or going to the candidate forum tomorrow night, or going up to Ashe County and standing out, those are things that I need.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited about getting out there and doing some, handshaking and talking to people. So this is
so excited for you. This is going to be a great event. I can't wait to see pictures. I can't wait to get some pictures added to the website from this event.
And I actually, I need to start putting the pictures I take and put other places onto the thing, because lately we've gotten, my son and I cooking some food got a lot of likes. It was private food.
Yeah, it did. It was great. All right, Kyle, this has been an awesome relational organizing rundown, and it's good to chat with you too. I feel like it's always work stuff, but like campaign
it is, and
this is hang out.
And I think people seeing that we work together and that we have things that we're trying to build is pretty cool too. So have a great one. We didn't stick to the topic completely, but I still think it was great.
I think so too. All right, see ya.
Bye.